Hey guys, so today is going to be our first official day of doing good old Romeo and Juliet. Yesterday we had that introduction into elements of drama in William Shakespeare, and now we're going to jump straight in and use some of that knowledge as we start reading the prologue for Romeo and Juliet. Now, you saw me post some things yesterday. If you look at the Instagram story, just again, a little bit of comparison between modern day stuff like Taylor Swift to the words that William Shakespeare also wrote. So again, some of them might be seen very similar to Shakespeare. Although his language is considered antiquated by some people, it's also pretty accessible as long as you take your time and break it down, which is what we are going to do together today. Now, I have posted this two-page packet in Google Classroom. It's actually just 2 pages of a larger packet that's about 20 pages, so it's what we're going to be working through as we are going through Romeo and Juliet's Act 1 through 2. So this one's titled Romeo and Juliet Vocabulary and Prologue. You should have that open either on a computer, or you should print it off because we are going to be working together and I need you to be working on it. When you click on this packet in Google Classroom, it should make its own copy for you already. So you should be able to just write directly on it. The first thing is your vocabulary. You have a few vocabulary words here that I need you to get the definitions for. In tomorrow's video, I will be talking about these vocabulary words, but as of right now, they are blank. You have to get those definitions yourself. Okay, moving on to the prologue of Romeo and Juliet. Now, there are some terms that I want to talk about. Some of them we've already talked about in this class before, but others we actually need to talk about. The first one is the sonnet. We've talked about that before. It is a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter used to explore such deeply felt issues as the fleeting nature of love and the aching questions of mortality. Typically presents a problem issue and then offers a solution. So Shakespeare writes a lot of sonnets. Remember, he had that list, or I gave you the numbers of how many sonnets and plays he wrote. So he wrote a lot of sonnets. And then the prologue of Romeo and Juliet, which we're about to read, is actually a sonnet in itself. A Shakespearean sonnet is a sonnet that consists of 3 quatrains and a couplet. In most cases, the Shakespearean sonnet presents an issue, an idea, and the 3 quatrains, and the solution or answer is presented in the couplet. So we're going to see that with the prologue to Romeo and Juliet as well. So defining those 2 words as well, couplet is a series of 2 rhymed lines with a pattern of AA, meaning that the end of the 2 lines rhyme with each other. We'll see that in just a second when we break down the rhyme scheme of this prologue. And the next one is a quatrain, is a series or unit of 4 lines that rhyme, not always with each other, but they're typically alternating rhymed lines, which again, we will see in just a minute. So what we're going to be doing is taking a look at this prologue. I have given it to you here in the Shakespearean English, and there's a blank modern English side. That's because that's what we're going to be doing right now. We're going to be typing or writing in this, and I'm doing it in red, in this side of the column for the prologue. Okay. So the first thing what we are going to do is we are going to look at the rhyme scheme of the prologue itself. So all you really have to do is look at the last word in each line to figure out that rhyme scheme. We look at dignity. That's going to rhyme with mutiny based on how you really say it. But that's where our A is going to be. Seen rhymes with unclean. That is going to be a B rhyme. The next one, foes, is C. Overthrows, they rhyme together. Life, D. Strife, D. Love, remove. It's not a very clean rhyme there, but it is what that rhyme is. It goes with those 2. Rage, stage, and then our last one is attend, rhymes with mend. So these first 3 ones, the ABAB is our first quatrain, CDCD, CDCD is our next quatrain, and EFEF is our next quatrain. And then the one at the end is going to be our rhyming couplet, which we will look at in just a second. Okay, so that is our rhyme scheme. I want you to keep that in mind that he has written a sonnet to open up Romeo and Juliet. So basically, Romeo and Juliet is opened with a poem. This prologue, any prologue in Shakespeare's plays are normally introduced by this character or maybe a bunch of characters called this chorus. And so they deliver this on the stage directly to the audience. Remember, if no one else is on stage and no one else is listening to a speech that's being given, we consider it a soliloquy. So that is what is happening here with this prologue. Okay, let's dive right in to what is happening. So what I want you to picture in your mind while we are reading this is just say it's one person on the stage alone, looking at the audience, narrating what they are about to see. Basically, how Shakespeare's prologues operate is that they are basically like a Spark Notes version for the entire play. It's also kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert. It tells you the ending right here at the start, which is kind of weird. But that is our prologue right here at the start. It's going to tell you everything that we are going to see in this play. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first line, 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our. What this basically means here is that we have 2 households. We know that 2 households. That part is also already pretty much in modern English. Both alike in dignity. What that means is that they are similar in status, meaning that they are pretty well off. They're pretty rich. So we have 2 rich families. That's what we know from this first line. There are 2 rich families in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Where we lay our scene just means that that's where this story is going to be set. So the story is set in Verona, which is in Italy. It is this made-up city, but for our purposes here with Romeo and Juliet, but it is in Italy. From ancient grudge, break to new mutiny. Ancient grudge means that they have this really old dispute between the families, and new mutiny means that it is happening again. So we have this new mutiny, this new fight. So this old family feud, this old family fight is now causing a new fight in new generations. Okay, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. If you know what the word civil means, if we consider the Civil War, that is the fighting between different parts of America, brother against brother. That's what we're considering here. So both families have blood on their hands, the blood of the other family. So they're residents of Verona. They should be getting along. They live in the same place, but instead they want to fight and kill each other. So that's what that line means right there. From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Now I combined this part just so we're going to talk about it together. So from the fatal loins of these 2 foes, that basically just means that the children, so the children of these enemies, and this is star-crossed lovers, so we know they fall in love, and eventually commit suicide. So we're going to see with Romeo and Juliet what happens here at the end. That's basically your spoiler alert sentence there. These children of the enemies fall in love and eventually commit suicide. Next one, whose misadventure piteous overthrows do with death bury their parents' strife. So what this means is their deaths, their sad deaths, cause their parents to forgive each other and stop fighting. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage. So what this means here is the story of their love and their parents' anger, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. So what this is saying here is which nothing but the death of their children could cause is now what you are going to see for the next 2 hours. So let's read this all together, just so we get a general gist of what they're saying here in this prologue. So there's 2 households similar in status. The story is set in Verona, Italy. There's this old fight between families. It's now happening again. It has broken out into this new dispute. Both families have blood on their hands, the blood of the other family, and the children of these enemies will eventually fall in love and then will eventually commit suicide. Their sad deaths cause their parents to forgive each other and stop fighting. And the story of their love and their parents' anger, that parents' anger could not be undone by anything but the death of those children. The children have to die in order to end that feud, is now what you are going to see for the next 2 hours on this stage. So, the which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So what he's saying here is if you listen patiently, listen and watch patiently, you will see all of this happen and more. So basically what they're saying there is that if you didn't get everything you needed from this prologue, don't worry, just watch patiently for the next 2 hours and you will see all of this come to place or come to fruition. You'll be able to see all of this acted out by actors on our stage. Just sit there patiently. So basically, the purpose of this is just to give them a little spark notes. Maybe it would cause some people to get up and leave. Maybe they'd be like, I don't want to watch this. I'm getting out. And they would leave their seats, leave wherever they were standing in the pit and walk out. And maybe some people will be like, wow, this sounds super interesting. I really like this. Basically, the prologue is like a movie trailer. It says, here's what you're going to see. Come see it or not. And then the play itself will start. So like I mentioned, it says here at the bottom, the prologue for Shakespeare's plays is basically a miniature SparkNote summary. It helps us understand the fact about the two different families that are fighting for years and often result in violent fights. And that is where the first act of the play usually picks up, or actually picks up. Okay. One thing I want to add on to this note sheet, so you are aware of it, are two households themselves. Their names are Capulet and Montague. Juliet is going to be a Capulet, and Romeo is going to be a Montague. So they are fighting. They are not supposed to fall in love because their families hate each other, but we know from the prologue that they probably are going to fall in love. They are going to fall in love, and that they are, or they might possibly die at the end. They are going to die at the end. We know that from our prologue. Okay, so that is what I wanted you to do today. We're just looking at this prologue, just jumping into this story. I need you to get those definitions for those vocabulary words defined. Remember, you also do have a warm-up today, and then you also have text questions to answer about this prologue before we jump into the text. So we actually have a lot to do today. That's why I wanted this video to be pretty short. But tomorrow you will be deep diving straight into Act 1 of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, that's it, guys. Thanks.